Hello, I'm Peter Just. I teach anthropology here at Williams, but I'm also, for my sins, the faculty chair of the Honor and Discipline Committee, and it's about the honor code and the honor system that I want to talk to you today. Um, like most or many universities and colleges, Williams is governed by an honor code, which means that we don't proctor exams. Students can do take-home exams, self-scheduled exams, and so on and so forth. Um, Honor codes, honor systems have their origin, I think, sometime in the 19th century, and really come out of a kind of a Victorian ethos of that saw students as young gentlemen whose sense of personal honor would preclude cheating or taking advantage over one's peers. And so for faculty to proctor exams, and of course in those days exams were mostly what it was all about, was almost an insult to that sense of honor, as if the student couldn't be trusted, his sense of honor couldn't be relied on. And so there were instituted, largely throughout the academic world in those days, honor codes, honor systems, some of which continue to this day. Some places they're taken very, very seriously, at the service academies, obviously, but also places like the University of Virginia, where a violation of the honor code is considered more or less automatic grounds for expulsion. We're a little more salvific at Williams, but believing in the reformability of our students. And so the usual penalty for a violation of a code of academic honesty is that the student fails the course and is given a period of disciplinary probation. And that all happens at the end of a hearing process where a committee, the honor committee, considers the case before them and makes a recommendation to the dean. That committee consists of a number of faculty appointed by the dean of the faculty, a number of students elected by their classmates, and by the dean of the college ex officio. And you can read about the details of the procedure and so on the committee's website, which you can access through the college's general website. And there's a whole list of them. And I hope that's as close to the honor system as you ever get. However, if that's not the case, and in any case, there are a number of things we'd like to ask of you to see if we can keep the number of violations of a code of academic honesty to a minimum. Primary among these is that you be as explicit and as detailed as possible in letting your students know how the honor code applies to the assignments you give them. It's very important and not always understood by students that they know that the honor code applies as much to problem sets and response papers and lab reports as it does to term papers and exams. Some may not realize that. It's also really important to be very clear about what you do or do not consider to be appropriate collaboration among students in the preparation of their work. That varies actually quite a bit from course to course, from instructor to instructor, and students might honestly, though erroneously, assume that because they could collaborate on a problem set for one econ class, they can do it on all econ classes or what have you. So it's really important that you be as clear as possible. Another thing that it's really sort of important for us, I think, to realize is that for we academics, annotation, citation, acknowledgement are more or less second nature. But for many, not all, but many of our students, mashups, mixes, cut and paste, ripping are second nature. It's the kind of media and information handling world they've grown up in. And so they may not treat the work of others as being quite as wholly owned and sacrosanct as we tend to think of it, those old farts like us. So the more you can tell them, the clearer you can be. Spending even just a little bit of time talking about citation, not necessarily just about the form of it, but of the logic behind it, why you need to cite works, why you need to cite specific page numbers, and so on and so forth, can be really very, very helpful to students who may not think that way. Particularly, we have found some international students come from a pedagogical tradition in which exact memorization and exact quotation without attribution of words from textbooks and so on and so forth is regarded as not only permissible but laudatory. So the clearer we can be, the better. All right. So what happens if, alas, you're sitting there reading Billy Bob's student's paper, and all of a sudden you come upon a passage and you say to yourself, hello, Billy Bob's a very nice guy, smart enough, but this prose is more lucid, this grammar more accurate, this argument more cogent than anything this kid's ever produced. I think I've read this somewhere before. In fact, I think it was in a book with a green binding. What do you do? Well, you got to find the book with the green binding, basically. In order to have an appropriate case, you have to be able to match or determine what kind of match there is between the unattributed words that the student has used and the original source in order to find, in order to make a case that plagiarism has taken place. Search engines like Google can be very, very useful in that regard. The chair of the honor committee can be of no use whatsoever in that regard. That's going to be your responsibility. Similarly, looking when you think that answers on a problem set or an exam are too close to be accidental, you have to really kind of match them up clearly. Maybe you want to ask a colleague if they think it's a similarly too close a match to be coincidental. But keep in mind that that a suspicion isn't enough. You have to make a case. If you do track down that book in the green binding with the passage, and it in fact is a pretty close or a perfect match for what the student has done, or you find that article that's been cut and pasted from by using Google, please, please, please resist the temptation to resolve this yourself. Resist the temptation to call the student in and rip them a new one and what have you, or resist the temptation to adjudicate this yourself by assigning a penalty. At that point, once you have sufficient evidence to make a case that a violation of the honor code has taken place, it really becomes the province of the honor committee. And you should come to the chair of the honor committee or to the dean of the college or to the student chair of the honor committee, and we'll set the wheels in motion for getting this thing done. And if you think about it a minute, you'll see that it's important, just simply as a matter of fairness, that these things be handled across the college in a consistent way, that if there's going to be a punishment, if there is a violation of the honor code, what exactly constitutes a violation of the honor code? These are matters of community standards. And remember that a violation of the honor code, after all, is not an offense against you, the instructor. It's an offense against the community as a whole, particularly against other students. And so we ask that you handle things that way. If that happens, there will be and the student chair and the faculty chair and the dean are persuaded that a sufficient case can be made. It'll come before the committee. You'll give your evidence. The student will give his or her side of the story, and the thing will be taken care of in that regard. Other than that, if you've got questions, feel free to get in touch with me or whoever is chair of the honor committee, or the dean.